Hello and welcome to the YouTube live of Disha in Australia. We have the founder of Ohna with us today. She's Kaylee, and she'll like to introduce herself. And we are going live on Veroni Radio in just a second.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Kaylee. I am the founder of Ohna, which is an ANU-based climate startup building climate-resilient food supply chains, and I am very excited to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. And we're just starting up with Veroni in a second. Okay, finally. Hello, namaste, and welcome back to Disha in Australia. Today, we have a very special guest on board with us. So, welcome Kaylee, who is the founder of Ona, and she is with us today. She's our second guest, who is also a woman in business. So, how do you feel today, Kaylee?
I am excellent. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be part of a theme of women in business. We love to see it.
I am extremely honored to have you on board today. So, to start with, would you like to introduce yourself to the Voroni Radio?
Absolutely. Hi, Waroni. My name's Kaylee. I am the founder of Ohna, which is a climate startup based out of ANU. We're building climate resilient food supply chains, and right now we are bringing fresh produce direct from farmers to students at ANU without the supermarket markup.
That's absolutely brilliant. So, if we have to ask you, how did you ever think of this idea? What will you say? Like, how did it come to you?
Well, it was a long process.
Yeah.
It was a long process. Okay.
Just have to move your chair a bit. Yes.
Epic. It was a long process. It did not happen overnight. I think it probably started, it would have been 3 years ago now, almost. I was listening to a podcast called How to Save a Planet, and they had an episode called Soil, the Dirty Climate Solution, which was all about sustainable farming and regenerative agriculture. And I got obsessed for whatever reason. I went down a rabbit hole of looking at what our current food supply chains looked like and what the problems were there, and there are quite a few, and decided that it was something I wanted to pursue. And so did a lot of experimenting over that time until we got here.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. And so you feel like there are certain things that make you realize, oh, there's like something that I want to do. And then there are like hints, and you start following those hints, and you end up doing something that you really wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think I didn't realize how obsessed I would be with it at the start. And then as I uncovered more and more about it, I just decided it was a problem I wanted to spend my career on. And that's what I hope to do.
Wow, that's amazing. So we know that you are a student as well. So how did it come to you that, okay, maybe I can be a student and a businesswoman at the same time?
Gosh, I didn't really expect it. I kind of just, well, I'm a very impatient person, so I didn't want to wait until graduating. And I also realized that if I was going to go into my own startup, that would be a very scary thing to start straight out of uni rather than going to get a desk job. And so I realized I wanted to start building it as early as possible so that that jump was less scary.
Yeah.
So I just started building early, and it kind of went from there.
That's amazing. And so in terms of like doing a business, it seems a little bit scary at first as well, because you are the person who's gonna be responsible for everything. But it's also cool because you don't work according to anyone, and you build your own dream, which is kind of exciting and cool. But seeing in terms of like, I'm from India, and India is a very business culture kind of a place, like we have people running their businesses every street, every shop. There's like some generational family businesses going and people taking it over, or like small business happening. Whereas in Australia, it's a popular job culture where people are mostly involved in public jobs, serving the government, acting as public servants, or in private sector. So how was there a shift for you to step into business?
I agree with you. Australia doesn't have such a strong sort of startup
Yeah.
entrepreneurship culture. I know that there are a lot of groups in Australia trying to fix that and trying to grow that sort of culture, but it's not there yet. It's getting there. I think I did just kind of find the right people eventually. If you look for them, they are there in Australia, although they might be less and they may be less obvious. And once I found those people, I just knew straight away that that's what I wanted to do. It was just a matter of getting there in the first place.
Right. So, in terms of like getting into business, is it something that you always wanted to do, or something that just was with you when you were growing up, or it came to you as a sudden thing?
I think I kind of always had it. I'm very stubborn and I'm very self driven as well. And I very much prefer working on my own very long term goals and hyper focusing on one thing. And so I think that kind of lends itself to startups. And yeah, I kind of realized after my first desk job like experience that I just would not be able to work on something that I don't personally find to be very important and that I'm not personally invested in.
Yeah.
And so I realized I would have to find a way to do my own thing.
That sounds really nice thing, because most people spend their life having a 9 to 5 job and not thinking beyond that. um, there are a lot of times when we have some ideas in our head and you just don't know how to make those ideas into reality. So what is your take on that?
It has to be one step at a time, and you have to be willing to fail publicly. Like, you have to be okay with putting something out there that is not perfect. And that was one of the biggest learning curves that I had, is I found it really hard to be able to communicate something that was half formed. Because I think, we probably, a lot of us at ANU are perfectionists in some way. And I found that really, really tricky. And then I found it got easier and easier. And obviously, as you keep taking those steps, it becomes more and more fully formed. But you really do have to be okay with putting something out that is maybe not the best thing in the world. And sharing that with people, because that's the only way that it will get better. You can't build a business in a bubble with just you.
True. I also feel like there are certain things that you have to always keep in mind, like having the courage to be disliked, having the courage to accept your failures and your rejections, but having this thing in your heart that, okay, maybe I failed today, but I can win tomorrow. And that is one of the most beautiful perspective shift that we can have when we have this thing in our heart that, okay, it's okay to fail, it's okay to have failures, because you can't climb the mountain without falling.
Absolutely. And I think the hardest part of this journey has been that sort of personal development of being willing to back myself in something. And that's something I still struggle with, is being able to be like, this is what I'm doing and I think it's important and I think it's good. And accepting that other people might not agree with that, and some people will and some people won't, and that's okay. That's been the biggest learning curve for me.
What have been certain hardships that you might have faced during your career or as a businesswoman?
Ooh, good question. I don't know if I could say specific hardships, but I think there have definitely been challenging aspects. So there's been that aspect of being able to back myself publicly and being able to deal with rejection. I would also say learning to communicate what's in my head clearly was something that I had to learn to do, and that I'm still trying to learn to do.
Yeah.
I think the actual day-to-day things that I'm doing aren't really that hard. It's just having the energy to keep doing it and the motivation to keep doing it no matter what. Like, I think anyone could do it. It is just having the tenacity to not stop even when things don't seem like they're going to work, and just being able to push through.
That's a really beautiful thing that you said, being able to push yourself when you think that, oh, there might be a chance that things won't work, but I'm still trying. So you're trying, and it matters a lot. So to all the people who have joined in YouTube, you can add in your questions, your comments. We can see some people also writing certain things. Thank you so much to everyone who is live with us on YouTube and on Varoni Radio. Um, so, Kaylee, what is one thing that you want to say to people who have ideas in their head and are willing to run a business, but just are stuck into particular things or particular voices that are just holding them back?
Take action, do something physical. Like, you have to put something physical out into the world, because I've been there and I get that. Like, I spent so long thinking about this and not doing anything about it. Everyone has ideas, and you have to be the one to take that idea and do something with it. Otherwise, it's never going to get out of your head. And it could be something amazing, but you have to be willing to, again, fail in public, take it, do something with it that's not going to be perfect, and then get that feedback from people around you. And I think one of the best pieces of advice that I got from someone in this journey was, tell people about your idea early when they don't think that you'll be able to do it, so that you can then prove them wrong. Because if you're able to prove them wrong, that surprise factor is really valuable, and then they'll be like, oh, this person can actually do what they say they're going to do. So don't be afraid of doing something early on and telling someone about it, knowing that they're not going to believe in you, because that's okay. That can be a strength later.
That's such an amazing thought to share, and I heard it before when you said it, and I really love that perspective, because you also have a drive in yourself that, oh, I am supposed to prove that person wrong too.
And absolutely, it can be very satisfying.
Yeah, definitely, when you just come back and you are, oh, you know what, I did it. So what you said was wrong. So in terms of like Ohna, I can imagine that it might not be easier for you to go out to and talk to so many farmers and telling them if you are happy to work with us or how you want to take things up. So how was that journey for you?
I love working with the farmers. They are some of what makes this worth it for me, is the interactions that I get to have with them and the friendships that I get to build with them. I adore them. It was tricky to find a network of farmers at the start. That took me a long time. So that was definitely a challenge. I just started, like, that first kind of action that I forced myself to take that we were talking about, when I'd been thinking about it for a long time, but I hadn't done anything with it, is I drove out to a farm in my area and I just rocked up and asked the farmer if he would talk to me, and which he thought was so weird, because it was. But that was my first kind of like forced action, and also forcing myself to deal with a little bit of potential rejection. And so I kind of just started talking to farmers like that. And there is, like, the local food network is so strong that, one person who enjoyed talking to you will pass you on to another person, will pass you on to another person. And so I kind of started getting to know more and more farmers through that, and through community gardens, I would go talk to them. And then in Canberra, especially, there is a farmers market called the Capital Region Farmers Market, which is awesome. If you can get there, I highly recommend. And they have a bunch of farmers there. And so I got to meet a lot of farmers through that as well.
That's brilliant. And so in terms of doing all these networking and stuff, were you always good in terms of like talking to people and forming connections, or is it something that you have learned the way?
That's a good question. I think I was much less confident with telling people my ideas at the start.
Yeah.
And so I would just kind of, I can remember having conversations with people at the very start of this and just being like so overwhelmed that I was just smiling and nodding. Like I had nothing to contribute. I was just like, yes. But that can be good, because the whole point of those conversations is to listen and is to learn. So that was probably a strength at the start. And then when I got to the point where I had to be like, okay, I need to be able to tell them why I'm here now. That was, I guess, a bit of a learning curve as well.
Hmm. And how about when you present your ideas in terms of like people who might be um, who might be there to invest in your business, or like talking to investors or people who can potentially support you in terms of funding and stuff?
Yeah, so that was probably one of the biggest learning curves, was figuring out how does that process work and how do I meet those people, because that's such a barrier to entry to startups, and it's so not a world that I was a part of at all, as is the case for many people. And so I had some really amazing kind of mentors and advisors who saw what I was doing. And that goes along with the, you have to be willing to put an idea out there that's half formed, because you need help from people who are going to look at what you're doing and say, oh, I want to help with that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to know if you don't put something out there. So I put something out there. I was lucky enough to have, kind of one really good advisor come on, and then that led to another thing, and that led to another thing. I did some pitch competitions, which can be really, really helpful for meeting investors and mentors. If anyone is interested in doing this kind of thing, I would recommend that as a way of getting involved. So that was really helpful. And yeah, just finding the right people at the right times. I've been super lucky.
Right. And how about the HEX program that you did?
HEX program was amazing. I highly recommend to any ANU students who are listening. The HEX program is a program funded by the ANU. One of our ANU alumni funds it very generously. And they will take you to Singapore for a couple of weeks, and you will deep dive on your business idea at whatever stage it may be, and figure out what your next steps are, and do a bunch of networking. And that was super helpful for me. I had been working on this before the HEX program, but I had got stuck, and I didn't know what the next steps were, and I didn't know where to take it. And so I was kind of about to give up on it, honestly. And I was like, I'll just do this one program with this idea, and then I'll figure out afterwards what I want to do with it. And it allowed me to find the next steps and to take it further forward much faster. So highly recommend to anyone who would like to apply to that.
That's a thing that people should note who are listening to Brony and YouTube, about the things that Kaylee is mentioning, and these can be really helpful. And even like listening to a person who has already been into all these things, so you don't have to be like, I'm throwing darts at a blind spot. You already know that the experiences of a person who has been through these situations and who have been in these programs. So definitely recommending all of what Kaylee has just mentioned. So after like we have talked briefly about like your business journey, so is there something that your younger self always wanted and you're doing it right now?
Yes. So many things. I always wanted to, since I was probably 15, I wanted to start a business in sustainable tech. And that's what I'm doing now. And I also wanted to go to ANU, and that's what I'm doing now. So sometimes I have days where I just can't believe that, myself 5 years ago would be so excited by what I'm doing. So yes.
That's a beautiful thing. So you're just following your dream and you're doing what you wanted to do, and that's the most beautiful thing a person can follow. So in terms of like sharing and building your ideas, I remember we had a conversation when you were building your business for around a year and your roommates knew nothing about it.
That's right. Yes.
So in terms of like building and doing your ideas in private, what is your take on that? I know you have already shared that it's better to talk, but sometimes it is just a particular voice that stops you until you are yourself very sure that this is going to work, and you don't want to make things public and let a lot of people know about your idea until it's like actually really done by your side.
Yeah, I think it can be especially hard for people, or at least for me, to tell people that I know and am close to things that aren't fully formed. I don't know why, but I find that scarier than telling complete strangers. So what I did for a long time is I led almost this double life where no one close to me knew what I was doing, but I would still go out and talk about it, but I would talk to people in that world and in that industry about it. And I think because they are in that world, they were more. It was less scary, I suppose, because they expected that if I was there, I would be talking about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell the people in my life that I had a personal connection with outside of that. I didn't tell them for quite a long time, just because I don't know. I think it was easier not to, and I think it was important that I did at some point, but it wasn't until some media stuff started happening that they kind of found out, which was a fun surprise.
No, I totally agree with that. So this reminds me of one of my incidents. So I did my year 12 in the June of 2022. So I was done with that, and I was in a different city, and I was again living a dual life. No one knew I was preparing myself to go abroad until 12 days before my flight.
Oh my gosh.
And
oh my
that
gosh.
too, just my best friends knew 12 days before my flight, and other people didn't even know. And then when someone just like out of nowhere said, "Hey, congratulations, I heard you are going to Australia," and I was like, "How do you know that?" And then they're like, "Oh, it's all over because I did my IELTS from a particular coaching center, and they were all over advertising it. Oh, she got into ANU," and I was like, I didn't consent that. Because I was like, I'm not gonna tell anyone until I keep my step in Canberra. I'm gonna be quiet. I'm not gonna say even a single word. And throughout that 2022, so I came to Australia in Feb 2023.
Mhm.
So from July to February, no one knew what I was doing.
That's crazy.
And I was still and I was still doing mental health advocacy on my Instagram, still posting the beautiful sunsets that I see every day, and no one knew what I was doing.
I love it. She moves in silence. She moves in silence.
A lot, and that's been a thing with me since a couple of years, because I just feel if I make my ideas public, either it doesn't work out then. So it just stucks with me that when it is for sure done, then only reveal stuff, then otherwise shut up.
Yeah, that's fair. Aren't there studies that show that if you tell people about your goals, you're less likely to follow through on them? Yeah.
True.
There you go.
And also, like, when I was doing my IELTS and stuff, I also felt like there were certain times that I was still in the process that, do I really want to go abroad? Is there certain things that are better there? And why is that I want to go there? Because I still had my backups. I still had Indian unis, and I got into one of the best uni in India, and I was very considerate to go there. But I feel like sometimes the things that are meant for you will work how they want you to work, and not so you'll find the right people, you'll find the connections that will actually lead you to follow the path that is nowhere in your head. Because even myself, I would say I never dreamt of studying abroad. It was out of nowhere that it fell into my lap.
So why did you decide on ANU?
ANU because I applied to a lot of universities, but I wanted to get into the group of 8, and I received the Chancellor's 50% scholarship from ANU.
Congrats.
Thank you. And also because ANU is ranked in 2023, it was ranked number 1. And then it went to number 4 in this year, but it's okay.
That's so funny because I did the same thing when I came here. I was like, yes, number 1, and then I came and they dropped. Yeah. Like, coincidence? Maybe not.
So yeah, it was number 1 in Australia, and also because in terms of psychology, a lot of practical exposure along with theories provided, and because I wanted to see countryside Australia.
Yeah.
Because I'm not usually a person who would like to go to popular places. I like more of the stuff which is unexplored and hidden. And so I wanted to come to Canberra. And I discovered a lot of things about Canberra while I was in my city, and I got to know that the design and structure was built by the same man for Canberra and Chandigarh, where I'm from. And a lot of very interesting things, like telling people, oh, Canberra is the capital of Australia, not Sydney or Melbourne.
Surprising, I know.
Yeah. And yeah, but I knew nothing about Australia before applying to Australia, because it's funny how India is so close to Australia, but in terms of political matters too, but we don't study anything about Australia
Yeah.
in the high school.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think we do either. Like, it's not in the curriculums. Maybe it
Yeah,
should be.
because we study a lot about Europe and America and like all the Western history, but we hardly study anything about Indonesia or the Asian countries or South Asian countries, and then Australia, like things that are close to you. We don't study them.
Yeah.
We study things that
But
are
we all know so
far
much about
away.
America.
Yeah, exactly. The American media is so popular, the American films, Hollywood, everything, but you just don't get a chance to study things that are in a close proximity to you.
Yeah.
All right, so coming back to the topic, and
We've tangented slightly.
yeah.
But
So in terms of like doing the business now and also you're studying, so how do you manage these two things?
I do not have weekends.
Oh my God.
It's busy, but it's okay because it's something that I love doing. But it is definitely busy. I mean, I did have to do some changing around of my degree to be able to do what I wanted to do. So I actually, once this startup stuff started ramping up and started seeming like it was something I would be able to pursue, I decided to drop half of my degree. I was doing a double degree. I decided that I actually wanted to get into the real world a bit faster. So I dropped half my degree and I started doing 3 courses a semester rather than 4.
Mhm.
And ANU has been kind enough and flexible enough to let me do the startup work that I'm doing as part of one of my courses, because I'm doing a research and development degree. So there's a bit of flexibility there around what I work on. So that has also been really, really helpful. Otherwise, I would not be able to do all the things that I do. Yeah, so that's kind of how I did some juggling. I do just work a lot of hours, but I also did some juggling so that I would have those hours to put into it.
Right. And when did you introduce your business to the world?
Oh, that's a good question. I think probably the moment that most people in my life found out about it was there was a Vogue feature, and that made it very hard to keep quiet from people. So that was helpful for being able to kind of share it with people, and it was also very helpful to be able to feel like I could back myself in it. I was kind of like, okay, now I feel like this is enough of a thing. So some people knew about it before then, but not really.
Yeah. And so when you introduced Ohna, so was it like you introduced the brand and not yourself?
Interesting. So when Ohna first started, yes, it was. I mean, there was nothing on Ohna that would connect it to me, I suppose. It was on my LinkedIn though, so it was sort of connected to me. And then I would say now that I've started kind of publicly backing it, and like putting things on my social media about it and doing all the things, it's quite connected to me now, I think.
And why Ohna? What's the significance of this name?
Of the name, it actually started as Onama. There was a bit of a journey here. It started as Onama because when I was like 12 or something, my aunt, who makes candles and would sell them at kind of markets and stuff, we started a business, quote unquote business, because I was 12, together making these candles, and called it Onama. I can't remember why. And because I was 12, it didn't become a thing because I was 12. And then when I was starting this business later on, I found one of those old candles at my family home with the label Onama on it. So it started off being called Onama. And then we went to register the business name, and there was a charity called Onama. And I figured I didn't really want to try to steal the name of a charity. So we shortened it to Ohna, and here we are.
It's a lovely name, and I hope you can find the meaning of it someday.
Thank you. I hope so too.
Okay. So in terms of like when you are a student who is in business, there might be certain times that you might just go and you might not be able to fit into that generation where there are people who are running their business in their late 30s or 40s, and how does that thing comes up, because it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely not, I'm not running this full time yet. I certainly intend to, hopefully next year or the year after, but I am definitely in a very different stage to what most kind of like full-time entrepreneurs will be doing. But there are also a lot of entrepreneurs who are older who are also doing it part-time because they have, jobs or families or whatever else they have to do. So I don't feel too different. And I also have been lucky enough to be connected to older entrepreneurs, but also entrepreneurs who are kind of around my age or just a few years older. And so having that is really helpful because they're a few steps ahead of me. And so I can get that kind of advice and mentorship and see through someone who's already done it what the next steps are. But they're also close enough that they remember what it was like when they were in my shoes. And that's been really helpful.
That's a really nice thought to give. Um, so in terms of like when you are running your business and you're thinking about, okay, this is the stuff that we are going to do, and thinking about the future prospectus of this. So um, as your business is bootstrapped, right? So
That's
how
right.
do you think about the future prospectus of that?
Yeah, so we are, I guess I should talk about what we're doing right now, I suppose, because I don't know if we've given a kind of complete overview. So we are.
Also, if you can just tell the viewers bootstrap, because all of them might not know that.
Okay, yes, for sure. So we are entirely bootstrapped at the moment, which means that we are not taking on any external funding. So no one's giving us money to do this.
Yeah.
We didn't require a lot of money to get started because what we're doing at the moment is we're building a network of local farmers and we're building the tech to be able to connect them directly to people. And at the moment, we're focusing on connecting them directly to students. So we have an app called Ohna, which you can look up, OHNA. And people can download the app and they can see the produce and they can see what's cheaper than supermarkets and they can order through there. So to set that up, because I am an engineer, I kind of taught myself to write the code for that and hacked something together. It was not very good, but we hacked it together and it was functional.
Yeah.
And so we did that without needing any funding or anything. And then we are now working with a team of student developers who are amazing. Shout out to them. I adore them. And so they're kind of building it out with me. And that means that, again, we haven't had to take on any external funding, which is awesome. So yeah, we've been entirely bootstrapped up until this point. And in the future, it's still up in the air. We are in contact with some different potential funding sources, but we will see what happens, I suppose. To be able to go full time, we probably will end up taking on funding at some point, but we'll find out. If we can bootstrap it all the way, that'll be great.
Yeah, that's actually a good point to mention, because a lot of people have this notion in their head that they can't run a business without getting external fundings, whereas you are doing it bootstrap, which is one of the rare things that businesses do.
Yeah, it is really hard. It does depend very much on your business model and also on your ability to support yourself and kind of pay your rent as you're doing it. So because our business model is like largely tech-based and just based on relationships with suppliers, we were lucky enough to be able to have something that didn't need a lot of funding to start. But if it was a business where we needed a lot of expensive hardware or we needed a lot of materials, it would be a totally different story. So different businesses have the different correct, or I guess not correct, but best ways to find funding and to get off the ground. But I would say it's probably always possible to take the first steps without funding. And that's what you will have to do, because people won't give you money to do something until you've shown that you are committed enough to be able to do it and that you have the ability to do that. So the first steps, I think, will always have to come without funding. And I think that's always possible, some level of research. And then potentially funding can come depending on your situation.
That's absolutely right. And I totally agree with having different business models, because sometimes your idea might be related to things that require machinery and a big inventory, and that's when you definitely require some sort of fundings and stuff until you're very rich. But
Manifesting.
yeah. So as you talked in the beginning about not being able to fit into the job sector, so what were your experience in that job sector?
So I have actually never had a proper office job. I have had kind of experiences in sort of like internshipy work experiency roles where I was in a role that was like that, and I realized that I just never wanted to do it, and I've avoided it like the plague ever since. So I don't have very many specific stories for you.
Mm-hmm. If I have to share some of my job experiences story, so I never worked when I was in India because we don't have a popular student working culture. So it's like one of the cultural differences that I see a lot here. So mostly Indian students are dependent on their parents for their financial stuff till like their job, until they get a financially stable job. Um, so moving here was my first exposure to actually doing a job, because obviously currency changes are extreme and they're super super high. So I started off with my first job, which was a desk job, and it was as an administration officer. No one knows about this job.
She moves in silence again.
This is the first time I'm actually saying it publicly.
Let's go. Expose all the secrets. I'm so ready.
So, yeah, that job was pretty bad, and I hated every moment of being there.
Excellent review.
It was so bad that I don't like to recall it. I don't like even counting it. So
we'll just breeze over that one. That never happened.
That never happened. I usually don't say that, oh, that was my first job, because I usually just forget that it ever happened to me. I did 4 to 5 shifts, and that's it. I left the job.
That's fast. Hey, at least you know. At least you know when it's not right for you.
Yeah. Because I used to go to that job, and I was like being a kid there who just got off high school, and they were like, oh, you're a kid. And they used to be like very harassing and like, you do this. It's like, wasn't this a desk job? And they were like, no, just do these things, assemble this stuff and stuff.
Wait, was this in Australia or India?
Australia.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is getting really hard. And then sometimes I was like, literally just, my computer was open and I was sitting in the office and they didn't tell me what to do. So I was sitting there for 1 hour asking, what do I have to do? And they were like, yeah, we'll tell you. Yeah, we'll tell you. And I was sitting there for 1 hour because I don't know what to do.
That would be so scary. I remember getting my first job. I was like 14, because there's more of a like culture of getting jobs earlier here, I guess. But I had no idea what I was doing. And that was like a hospitality job. So I can't imagine being in an office job as your first job and just trying to figure out.
And I was like, okay, what do I do? And the one who was supervising me, who was basically the head of the administration, it was a small company. So she used to be like very, very annoyed every time. And I used to be so scared asking even one single question to her, because she used to scream if there was something wrong. And I was like,
gosh.
This is not my cup of tea. And then when we used to have lunch breaks, everyone was like having their kids and stuff and having a proper family. And they used to like bring so fancy lunches, like, proper meal, and me with apples. I used to felt like super overwhelmed. I was like, oh my god, this is definitely not my place. There's no one of my age. Everyone has their own family. And then when I'm asking like, what do I do, they don't tell me what should I do. So what am I doing here? I would say those 4 shifts were actually just me exploring Canberra. I remember when it was my first shift, so it was supposed to start at 2. I was there at 2:45 because 45 minutes I was just thinking, where is this place?
Oh no.
Because I was super new to Canberra, my first tram. And I was like, oh my God, okay, Stanford Street, I have to go straight. And then I end up taking a bus from that place to Mitchell because that was supposed to be in Mitchell. And then I was lost because I missed the stop where I was supposed to go down. And then I was at the other stop. And then I asked if they can take me back, which they obviously cannot. And then I go out and I realize, oh my God, I've not had the same yet. So I can't use my Google Maps.
No. No. You're never getting home either. Like, you're just done.
And I was at this random place out of nowhere, just thinking, where should I go now? And then I'm like, okay, asking every person who was on the street,
Oh my
because
gosh.
the person sent me the address. So
Yeah.
I was showing the address. Can you please tell me where this place?
My worst night. I would die without Google Maps. I would actually be gone from natural selection.
I know. And then I was asking every person. I was literally entering the shops and asking, do you know this address? And they were telling me halfway. And then halfway when I reached there, new shop. Do you know where to go next? Oh my God. And it was so difficult for me to find that place. And then after 45 minutes, I finally found that place. And I was obviously late for my first shift. That to 45 minutes. And I was explaining, I got lost. I am new to this country. I'm new to this city. I don't have a SIM. I don't know what to
me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then they said, so we reckon that you should go home today and rest and come back tomorrow. So the shift never happened. And they just sent me home and they were like, oh, if that was the situation, you could have just called us. That's all right. And I thought they were sweet at first.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a good start, kind of. Downhill from there, I guess.
Yeah, and then I took the bus back home after struggling to find that place and being there for 4 minutes exactly.
Oh my. I mean, that's fair. I remember taking the tram for the first time and I could not figure out how to tap on. I did not know where the thing was. I could hear it making the like ding noise as people walked on, but I couldn't see it. And I didn't realize that it was outside the tram on the station. And it took me a good few tram trips to figure it out.
Yeah, same. Because I thought that like buses you have to tap in.
Yeah, I thought it would be the same. It doesn't make sense that it's different. Canberra government, hear our prayers.
And so I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be tough. But then I finally discovered the ways, and then I did my 4 or 5 shifts, and then tata, bye bye. I hope to never see you guys again.
Did you put in a full like resignation letter? Or...
No, I just left. I never went back.
Just no notice. She stops turning up. Again,
like,
moves in silence. There's a theme here.
I just told that head of administration, you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Change my mind. And then not worth the tram trip.
She left me on scene. She never replied. And I thought it was a yes, so I never went back too.
That's so funny.
That's why I don't done this job ever, because I was like
left on red by my first admin job.
And then I was like, no.
On your resume.
I don't even put it in my experiences that I ever did that. Not even on LinkedIn. Because like those 5 shifts were me crying my tears, like, why am I here? And then the way I resignated, I can never forget that.
You do not want your future employers calling them up. I can't lie. I think off the LinkedIn, I agree.
Yeah, because you don't have a reference. How do you know I worked there? This is the first time I'm publicly saying this. None of my friends know this, so...
What have you done putting yourself on record?
I mean, I don't think that people are gonna skip to like 49 minutes ahead and see what is Disha saying here. Oh, she did that. So I don't think this is gonna happen anytime soon.
We're gonna need an update in like 2 episodes time, just in case.
And then after my first really rubbish job. I started working in retail slash fashion styling, which has been good.
Oh,
And I've been doing the same job since then, because like the work environment is really nice, and
nice.
my manager is my work bestie, so we just go
Nice.
and we chat and we do work, and that's it.
I think everyone should have either a retail or a hospitality job at least once in their life.
Yeah.
I think it's character building. I think it's important.
True. It actually teaches you how to have a conversation with people.
Yeah.
And that's so important, because when I started, again, I didn't know how to talk to people. I knew how to talk, but not in terms of like, what are you looking for in fashion talk? But it took me a while to discover that, and seeing how my managers do that, or how like the people who have been working in that same job for years doing that. So a lot of time I just observe them. What's the reaction? Okay, so this is how you're gonna follow that.
Yeah.
And that was a job that is really really close to my heart, because my managers, like, I have two managers, and they both call themselves my Australian mothers, because they just treat me like their daughters.
I love that.
Yeah, because I'm the youngest person working there, and they're like always very protective. And you know I don't fear asking them questions. If I'm going somewhere wrong, I know there's like this person I can turn up to, and they'll help me, rather than just taunting me or just mocking on me or anything.
As it should be. I hate that there are so many workplaces where that's accepted. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of my friends having their job experiences, which is mostly very shit, but sometimes it's good. But I'm glad that when, as you grow older, you get to understand, okay, this is the type of environment that is ideal. And it also gives you an idea, like, if in future I want to run a business, the first job is the environment I would never want to have.
Yeah.
And the second job is the environment I want to make when a new person joins in my company.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I feel like I initially used to think that if I'll be doing jobs, I'll never be able to understand how business things works. But I feel that if I wasn't into retail, I would never know that how the business is run. Because you see, like, I get to see the budgets, I get to see their financial statements, because it's all on computer, and I love exploring the computers. So I'm just like, what is your financial
In
report
all
of
the records, I was
2020,
gonna say, you
2023?
meant to be in there.
No, because my manager's like, you just go and chill on the laptop for a few minutes, and then I'll be like
He was
going
looking
into
at
the
all the
history.
confidential. Yeah.
Okay, this is 2023 report. You made so much money, and you still pay me $34 an hour.
What's the deal, guys? What gives?
But it's very interesting, and because I'm doing psychology and I love taking a little risk. So out of nowhere, I studied accounting last year, and I never studied accounting when I was in India, and I was always a humanities social sciences student, which accidentally joined accounting last year. And then it was so useful, because I was like, I know exactly what your cash flow statement means.
Nice. I feel maybe I need to study accounting now.
It is actually helpful, because it tells you like the income sheet,
Yeah.
and their balance sheet, and whatever is left in their finances, their assets and everything. It's pretty interesting. I really love doing that company research on my own company, especially.
I love it.
So yeah, but it's pretty fun. But I guess one thing that out of all this thing that I want to say is, don't be afraid to take your risk and take the opportunities, because there are so many opportunities in the world, and you just need to have your eye on them, and you need to just grab it, because if you won't, someone else will. So either you take it or you let it go.
Absolutely. Amen.
So we have shared a lot about your experiences with entrepreneurship, and a lot of fun chit chat as well. So is there any last piece of advice that you want to give to anyone who's listening to you right now?
Yeah. I think what I would say is something I know I've probably already said in this time, but it's one of the biggest things that I'm still learning, which is just have faith in yourself, be willing to back yourself, be willing to keep moving something forward just bit by bit by bit, even when it feels like it will never get there. Because I just think that's the most interesting way to live life. Like, one of my biggest goals is just to not have regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see the point of not trying to do something, because what's the worst that can happen is that you look stupid in front of people. Okay, so what? In 10 years, it doesn't matter. Like, try it anyway, see what happens.
Definitely. I love that. And that's one mantra that I also always follow. I don't want to have any regrets in my life. Like, I just want to try, even though if I'm doing like something, what's the worst that can happen? People will laugh on me.
Yeah.
People will make funny comments. They'll talk with their group or something. But the thing is, they never had the courage to say it on my face.
Exactly.
So I won.
And you know what? Kind of dark, but like, at some point we're all gonna die, and at that point it's not gonna matter. Like,
True.
It doesn't matter. So just try the things that are gonna be the most interesting to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And towards the end, you will not have regrets. Like 20-30 years down the line, you'll say that I had the courage to go and say things on a radio show, and so I did, no matter what people talked, no matter what people said. So I did. And maybe 30 years down the line, I'll be telling my children, oh, I did my first job like this.
Makes a great story.
Yeah.
Do it for the plot.
Just do it, have fun. And yeah, that's one of my really good advice with you. And another thing I want to say is, like, it's good to have confidence, but not like over confidence. Because then what people, like, maybe I have also done it, thinking that other people around you are dumb. But that's not true.
No.
Yeah, that's a big no, because everyone has their own way of handling things, and some might be vocal about it, some might just like to keep it in private. And everyone is trying super hard to build their story. So you can't just like crush their dreams and think, oh, I'm the superior one here. But it's more about growing together rather than pushing each other down and just climbing on your own ladder.
Everyone can be great at once. You don't have to be better than someone else to be great. You can just both be great.
Yes, absolutely. Just growing together is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it just makes you believe in humanity also.
I think we're going to be great friends. I'm so excited that we've met.
I'm so honored that you are here today, and I'm so glad to have met you, because there's so many things that we share in common.
Yeah, small tangent away from whatever we were meant to talk about into whatever we did talk about. But I enjoyed it.
But thank you so much to everyone who has joined in today.
Oh, sorry. Can I add huge thank you to everyone in the comments? Lots of
love.
We love you so much.
Thank you for all the lovely comments.
Yes.
And we just have hit the clock, and I am super grateful to everyone who has joined in Voroni Radio. If you have any questions regarding anything, you can text Kaylee. Would you like to provide your contact details?
Absolutely. If we do social media, is that the best way?
Yes.
You can find Ohna as a group. We are at Ohna Team, OHNATEAM on Instagram. We are Ohna on Facebook, Ohna on LinkedIn. I am Kaylee Sleeth. The spelling might be tricky, but I'm sure it's on your social media somewhere.
Absolutely.
I'm Kaylee Sleeth on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Feel free to hit me up. Please do. I would love to talk to anyone who is interested or keen to chat.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Lastly, are there any internship or volunteer opportunities that Ohna is providing to students?
Absolutely, yes. You can help us out, get involved if you want to. We have a group of students at the moment who are doing this just as part of their degrees. So there is the option. There are lots of different courses where you can kind of get to be involved with this and do it as part of your degrees. So reach out if you might be interested. We'd love to hear from you. And I highly recommend getting the app, having a look at the products that are available. There is a lot of really good deals on there, and it's direct from your farmers. You can see who you're ordering from. 100% of the money that you pay for the product goes to them. We have, what's my favorite prices at the moment? Tomatoes for $3 a kilo. $3 a kilo. Grapefruit for $2.50 a kilo. Apples, 50 cents each. Pears, 50 cents each. Go limes 30 cents each.
I know, right? This I need to add this. So I bought vegetables from Ohna a few days ago, and for the first time in my Australian journey, I've got so many veggies at $21.50.
So good. And it's so much fresher because it
I
was picked the
know.
day before instead of sitting in the supermarket for so long.
Exactly, like the mint. I remember I once ordered a broccoli for $3. It was this much.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And
Every
this
time I
mint-
walk into Coles, I get anxiety. It's so scary. Like, don't there has to be a better way, and it's
Yeah.
Ohna.
Yes, absolutely. Where you don't think about having your meals, like you don't have to skip your meals. You can actually get your groceries for cheap and you can cook them yourself, like fresh produce. You're eating good food.
Yeah. And if anyone does check it out and has feedback, I would love to hear it. Any suggestions, any products that we're missing that you would like to see, please hit us up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to anyone who has joined in today. And with this, we are concluding our live. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being a part of my show today.
Thank you.
I hope you had a wonderful time here. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in. We'll see you next week.
Lots of love. Bye.